No one in Hollywood could believe it when Sal Mineo's name exploded across the front page of the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, not in the entertainment section, but in the crime column. The two-time Oscar nominee, the rising star who once stood shoulder to shoulder with James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, was found dead in a West Hollywood parking lot. But his death? It was anything but simple. From that eerie behind-the-scenes photo of Rebel, showing the strange, almost secretive gaze between Sal and Dean, to the haunting nude portrait painted by Harold Stevenson, where Sal posed as a modern-day Adam, every image told a darker story. And the final photograph, snapped just hours before his fatal night on Holloway Drive, became the most chilling clue of all. By the end of this story, you'll understand why, even after nearly 50 years, no detective has dared to reopen Sal Mineo's case. Back in the 1940s, the Bronx wasn't the glamorous movie version people imagined. It was loud, cramped, and smelled of car exhaust and fresh Italian bread. On East 292nd Street, in a tiny second-floor apartment, lived a boy named Salvatore Mineo Jr., a second-generation Italian-American with big dreams. His father, Salvatore Sr., ran a small neighborhood cafe where cab drivers grabbed espresso between shifts. His mother, Josephine, worked at a grocery store, secretly saving coins in a tin box for her son's acting lessons. From the start, Sal was different. While the other Bronx kids played stickball, he stood in front of the mirror, imitating voices he heard on NBC radio, or reciting Casablanca lines in a mix of Italian charm and New York grit. A neighbor once told the Daily News that the boy had a strange look in his eyes, soft but sad, like he was seeing a world beyond ours. By age 9, Sal was already chasing the spotlight. He joined a kids' acting class at Manhattan's Dramatic Workshop, the same place that trained Marlon Brando and Tony Curtis. His instructor, Cornelia Otis Skinner, later wrote that the boy absorbed dialogue like breathing. He didn't act, he lived it. His raw energy was impossible to ignore, and it caught the eye of stage director Joshua Logan, who saw something special in the quiet kid from the Bronx. During a casting call just a year later, young Sal landed the role of Prince Chulalongkorn in the Broadway hit The King and I, starring alongside Yul Brynner and Gertrude Lawrence. He was only 11, the youngest in the cast, but he performed with a depth that left everyone stunned. Brynner once reportedly snapped backstage, complaining that the kid was stealing the spotlight from the adults. Even Lawrence told Variety that Mineo was too raw, too direct to control, but that same wild honesty made him unforgettable. Over the next few years, Sal popped up on TV shows like The Milton Berle Show and Studio One, quickly becoming a familiar face. Yet, behind the charm, there were whispers of tension and jealousy brewing. Rumor had it Brynner grew bitter after Sal was offered a television role before him. Gossip queen Luella Parsons even claimed Brynner vowed never to work with the boy again. By 1954, when The King and I wrapped, a Warner Brothers scout visited backstage and told Sal's mother, "Your boy's got the kind of eyes a camera will fall in love with." Soon, Sal was flown to Los Angeles to audition for a new movie, Rebel Without a Cause. Josephine could never have imagined that single decision would change her son's life forever and tie him to one of the most talked-about films in Hollywood history. In 1955, Sal stepped onto the Warner Bros. Lot in Burbank, where director Nicholas Ray was building his boldest story yet, a film about lost youth in post-war America. The trio, Jim Stark, James Dean, Judy, Natalie Wood, and Plato, Sal Mineo. During a rehearsal in an abandoned mansion at Griffith Park, Ray quietly told cinematographer Ernest Haller, "Keep the camera rolling. I want to see the boy's eyes when he looks at Dean." That unscripted moment became movie legend. Plato's gaze toward Jim, tender yet longing, like a kid searching for safety in a world that didn't understand him. Life magazine's Richard Schickel later wrote, "It was one of those rare moments when American cinema touched pure loneliness and the need to belong." But off camera, things were far from peaceful. Dean, at 24, was already Hollywood's ultimate rebel, while Natalie Wood, only 16, was rumored to be involved with the much older Nicholas Ray. The lines between art and life blurred dangerously. Sal, just 17, adored Dean like an older brother, but got swept into Hollywood's adult chaos. Gossip columnist Hedda Hopper claimed Dean often took Sal for drives in his silver Porsche Spyder around Los Angeles. Crew members confirmed their closeness, though no one knew what they really talked about. Dean was quiet, mysterious, but he always made time for Sal. And when Rebel Without a Cause finally premiered in October 1955, audiences were floored. Sal's role as Plato became the heart of Rebel Without a Cause. A fragile soul aching for love, his performance struck deep, especially with the quiet subtext that Time magazine hinted at. Here is a boy whose affection for his friend carries a rare depth of feeling on the American screen. In the 1950s, that line alone was explosive. But instead of outrage, audiences connected. They felt Plato's pain, his loneliness, and they loved Sal for it. At just 17, he earned an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, one of the youngest ever. Yet fame brought heat. Magazines like Confidential and Modern Screen splashed headlines like "The Bronx Boy Too Close to James Dean" and "The Strange Friendship Behind Rebel." When James Dean died in that tragic 1955 car crash, Sal was crushed. He couldn't even attend the premiere. He just sent flowers to Dean's home. The Los Angeles Examiner ran the headline, "Dean's youngest friend vanishes from Hollywood." In a 1956 KTLA interview, Sal quietly said, "He was the first person who made me believe I could be myself." That one line broke hearts and made the mystery around him even deeper. But the spotlight turned harsh. Studios didn't know what to do with him, too sensitive for the tough guy roles, too intense for the wholesome ones. So Sal pivoted. If Hollywood didn't want him, he'd reinvent himself somewhere else, with a mic in his hand instead of a script. By late 1956, Rebel Without a Cause had faded. Dean was gone, Natalie Wood was a superstar, and Sal Mineo, the Bronx boy who once held the world's attention, was struggling to find his next act. Living alone in a small Laurel Canyon apartment surrounded by old photos and an RCA radio, he stared at Dean's picture one night and thought, "If they won't cast me, I'll start singing." And guess what? Weeks later, RCA Victor called. They wanted to turn his haunting image into a pop dream. In early 1957, his first single, "Start Movin', In My Direction," dropped, and within 2 weeks, it was climbing the charts. Sal's single exploded. Number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 16 in the UK, and over 1 million copies sold. Even Elvis noticed. The press dubbed him the Miracle from the Bronx, and the Ed Sullivan Show brought him on live before millions. His bright smile and slick black hair were suddenly everywhere, on record shelves, dorm walls, and even taped inside high school lockers. 17 magazine crowned him America's Prince of Smiles, while Modern Screen gushed from Plato's shadows to pop idol spotlight. But behind that shiny image, Sal felt trapped. RCA wanted him to keep playing the sweet, harmless teen idol, even off stage. When a reporter asked about his love life, the label staged a fake romance with young actress Jill Howard. Photos of them laughing at the Beverly Hills Hotel flooded magazines, but insiders revealed they'd barely met. Sal started to feel like property. He told Variety that his contract forced him into endless tours, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Vegas, without rest. He couldn't even change his hairstyle or speak freely. Around that time, word spread that Elvis had invited him to perform together, but RCA reportedly shut it down, saying they're too similar. No need for competition. Even with the money rolling in, Hollywood began to close its doors. Directors didn't want to cast a teen idol in serious roles anymore. Some of Sal's old co-stars mocked him too. On Peter Potter's radio show, Natalie Wood joked, "Sal's too busy signing records to make movies now." That one stung. Behind the glossy album covers were lonely nights. Friends said he'd drive his Ford Thunderbird down Sunset Boulevard, talking to himself, music blasting. In a diary later found, he wrote, "They want me to sing like a machine when all I ever wanted was to tell stories with feeling." Then, just when it seemed his film career was over, a surprise phone call came from Otto Preminger. That single call would pull Sal out of the pop world and drop him right into the desert heat of Israel, where a new movie, Exodus, was about to change everything. Director Otto Preminger cast Sal Mineo as Dov Landau, a Holocaust survivor tormented by his past. Preminger was relentless. He made Sal read real survivor files and relive the horror. Some days, Sal filmed 12 hours straight under the brutal 42 degrees Celsius sun, his army uniform soaked through with sweat. Cinematographer Sam Levitt later recalled a powerful moment. During a scene where Dov relived his time in the camps, Sal fainted mid-take. The crew froze, afraid to move. When he came to, he whispered, "Keep it. Don't reshoot." It's real. That raw scene brought audiences in New York theaters to their feet. The New York Times raved, "Mineo is no longer the boy Plato. He is the spirit of survival itself." The performance earned him a Golden Globe and his second Oscar nomination at just 21. But the success came with new critics. Some questioned if audiences felt genuine admiration or pity. The Los Angeles Times even asked, did Mineo act well, or did the audience simply feel sorry for him? Preminger defended him fiercely, saying, "Hollywood fears him because he refuses to be obedient." Their working relationship, though, wasn't easy. Daily Variety reported explosive clashes between them on set, especially in one key scene filmed in Cyprus. Preminger demanded Sal scream out his pain, but Sal insisted, "Silence is more terrifying." The argument shut down filming for a full day, but in the final cut, Sal's silent take stayed, and it was haunting. As Exodus conquered the box office, the gossip returned. Rumors swirled about Sal's close friendship with co-star Paul Newman, until Newman himself addressed it on national TV. "Sal's like a younger brother to me. Please stop making stories up." By then, Sal had reached his peak, but Hollywood was changing fast. A new wave of rugged stars, Warren Beatty, Robert Redford, dominated screens. Sensitive, soulful types like Sal didn't fit the mold anymore. Studios grew hesitant, afraid his image was outdated. So, Sal made a bold choice. He walked away. By 1963, while others chased fame and magazine covers, the two-time Oscar nominee disappeared into Greenwich Village, trading Hollywood's glare for the raw pulse of New York's counterculture, ready to rebuild his art on his own terms. In those lonely New York days, Sal met Harold Stevenson, an Oklahoma-born painter known for his massive, hyper-real male portraits. Stevenson later told Art in America in 1964, "When I met Sal, I saw sadness in him, as if he were trapped inside his own body. I wanted to paint that." Stevenson was working on a monumental piece called The New Adam, a 12-meter-long painting of a reclining man symbolizing America's rebirth after the war. He looked Sal in the eyes and asked, "Do you have the courage to be the symbol of the new man?" Sal didn't hesitate. He said yes. It was a shocking move. In those days, no major Hollywood actor would dare pose nude for an artist. The Los Angeles Examiner screamed, "Sal Mineo leaves Hollywood and his clothes behind," while Variety called it a quiet act of career suicide. For 2 months, Sal and Stevenson worked secretly in a Bowery studio. Records from the Guggenheim Museum say Sal often arrived at night to avoid photographers, but soon word got out. A gallery worker leaked to the Village Voice that the mysterious model for the new Adam was none other than Sal Mineo himself. When the painting debuted at the Guggenheim in October 1964, Fifth Avenue was packed. The artwork showed a man's body bathed in soft light, his face hidden, sculpted like a Greek statue. Critics hailed it as the rebirth of the self. But the public wanted only one answer. Was it Sal? Hollywood's response was merciless. Warner Brothers cut him from the greatest story ever told, and the Hollywood Citizen News branded him a man who broke the moral code of the silver screen. But in New York's art scene, he was admired. Andy Warhol welcomed him to the factory, and Interview magazine declared, "Mineo is stepping out of Hollywood's shadow to become a symbol of creative freedom." When asked about the scandal on the Mike Douglas show, Sal stayed calm. "I didn't do anything wrong. I just appeared as myself. Maybe Hollywood doesn't like that, but art isn't supposed to be comfortable." After the new Adam, Sal was unofficially blacklisted. Friends said he spent long nights walking along Venice Beach, scribbling thoughts in a little notebook. Still, he refused to give up. Stage director Robert Allen Ackerman, one of his closest friends, later recalled Sal telling him, "If they won't let me act on screen, I'll build my own stage." And he really did it. In 1969, the name Sal Mineo lit up the marquee of the Coronet Theater in Los Angeles once again, but this time, not as an actor, as a director. That spring, whispers ran through the Los Angeles Free Press about a shocking new play set to premiere at the Coronet, Fortune and Men's Eyes, written by Canadian playwright John Herbert. The play dove deep into the brutal power struggles inside a men's prison and had even been banned in Toronto for being beyond moral limits. No one could believe a 2-time Oscar nominee was taking it on. But Sal didn't care about scandal. He saw truth in it. To him, the story was about repression, loneliness, and the desperate hunger for freedom, feelings he knew too well after years of being boxed in by Hollywood. He bought the rights himself, rented the Coronet on La Cienega Boulevard, and transformed it into a tiny 100-seat theater. For months, he ran auditions personally. Then, one day, a skinny 19-year-old with wild eyes walked in. Don Johnson, a college dropout looking for a shot. The crew wasn't sure, but Sal looked at him and said, "I see in him what I once saw in the mirror." He gave Johnson the lead role on the spot and stunned everyone. When the play opened in February 1969, the reaction was electric. The Los Angeles Times wrote, "The audience sat in silence. This isn't theater. It's the naked soul on display." Critic Charles Chaplin Jr. declared, "Mineo is no longer a lost actor. He's become a storyteller of truths America doesn't want to face." But of course, the success came with scandal. The National Enquirer and The Hollywood Reporter ran stories hinting at an overly close relationship between Sal and Don Johnson. The rumors spread so fast that Johnson addressed them directly in Rolling Stone. "Sal saved me from professional naivete. He believed in me when no one else did." Despite the gossip, Fortune and Men's Eyes became a phenomenon. The Los Angeles Cultural Council tried to protest, but young crowds lined up night after night. Every show sold out. Suddenly, Sal Mineo, the man Hollywood had exiled, was hailed as a bold visionary. The New York Post put it perfectly: he died twice and resurrected himself through art. Don Johnson, who would later become a household name in Miami Vice, often said, "If not for Sal, I might never have made it through my first audition." But even with glowing praise and critical acclaim, Sal's career still couldn't fully recover. The big studios kept their distance. His name was too risky, too tied to controversy. Still, Sal refused to fade away. In a 1971 interview with journalist Bose Hadley, he declared, "I'm not afraid of losing my reputation anymore. What terrifies me is not having the courage to tell the truth." When Fortune and Men's eyes closed, the audience rose in a thunderous standing ovation. But for Sal, that was just the start. He was finally done living by Hollywood's rules. From that moment, he chose honesty, even when the world wasn't ready for it. By the mid-1970s, as new stars like Pacino, De Niro, and Brando ruled the screen, Sal Mineo, the face who once embodied America's youth, had quietly disappeared. He lived in a small Laurel Canyon apartment, often riding his silver motorcycle down Sunset Boulevard, stopping by Musso and Frank's to chat with old actors who remembered the glory days. People still recognized him, but no one asked what movie he was in anymore. The National Enquirer ran the headline, "Mineo, famous not for his roles, but for his mystery." Hollywood had moved on, but Sal hadn't lost his spirit. One afternoon at a Sunset Cafe, Hadley sat with him again. After hours of deep talk, he asked, "Who have you loved most in your life?" Sal stared out the window, then said quietly, "I've loved men. I've loved women. There's nothing to hide about that." That simple truth hit Hollywood like a thunderclap. In 1972, such honesty was unheard of. The next day, gossip papers jumped on it. Sal Mineo expresses unconventional views on love. And just like that, the industry froze him out. Yet those close to him said he finally seemed at peace. He had found love with stage actor Courtney Burr III, his teaching partner in West Hollywood. They ran a small acting workshop, often seen walking together through Beverly Hills, unbothered by whispers. Sal told People magazine in 1975, "I don't want to live behind a mask anymore." But Hollywood wasn't ready for that kind of truth. Producers grew nervous, and one even told reporters, "His name makes the networks uneasy." Sal Mineo had stopped chasing fame. He was chasing freedom. Some of Sal's old co-stars began avoiding him at public events. As one New York Post reporter put it, Sal Mineo became a man both revered and exiled by the city. Yet to younger artists, he was something else, a hero. Underground magazines in Los Angeles praised him as the man brave enough to live honestly in a hypocritical world. He kept performing, pouring his heart into stage work, especially P.S. Your Cat is Dead, a dark comedy with sharp psychological edges that became his passion project. That play was his shot at redemption, the comeback he'd been waiting for. But fate had other plans. One quiet February night in Los Angeles, after a late rehearsal at the Westwood Playhouse, Sal stayed behind to lock up. He'd just finalized plans to take the show to Broadway. In his hand, he carried a folded script with a note scrawled inside, "Opening night, March." It could have marked the start of his rebirth after nearly a decade in Hollywood's shadow. Driving home to his apartment at 8563 Holloway Drive in West Hollywood, the streets were still. A few neighbors later said they saw him park his car, still holding his script, whistling softly under the streetlights. Then came a strange sound, followed by silence. Moments later, neighbors found him collapsed beside his car. One, Janet Roberts, told KTLA, "We thought someone had fallen. But when we got closer, he wasn't breathing." By morning, the news had exploded across Los Angeles. The Herald-Examiner blazed the headline, "Star of Rebel Without a Cause Found Dead in West Hollywood Parking Lot." Shockwaves rippled through Hollywood and beyond. Rumors flew instantly. The National Enquirer claimed he'd been followed for days. The Hollywood Reporter suggested a robbery gone wrong. Police found almost nothing, just his missing wristwatch and the crumpled script lying a few feet away. For 2 long years, the mystery hung over Hollywood like a cloud, until police, during an unrelated case, arrested 19-year-old security guard Lionel Ray Williams, a petty thief with a record. He confessed to stabbing Sal during a mugging attempt, insisting he hadn't known who his victim was. It was a tragic, senseless end for a man who had spent his whole life chasing truth, both on screen and off. The man who stabbed Sal Mineo had no idea he'd attacked a Hollywood legend. When caught, he told police, "I didn't know who he was." The Los Angeles court sentenced him to 51 years in prison, closing the case but leaving Hollywood shaken. Prosecutor Stephen Kay told CBS News this wasn't a conspiracy case, but it shattered the city's sense of safety. Even after the killer was behind bars, rumors never died. Some journalists claimed the investigation had been sloppy because Sal wasn't a box office star anymore. Biographer Michael Greg Michaud, author of Sal, told Vanity Fair, "If he'd still been as big as Dean or Brando, the case would have been handled differently." His funeral was simple and heartbreaking. Held at Gate of Heaven Cemetery in New York, it drew only close friends. Natalie Wood sent white flowers. Don Johnson gave the eulogy. And at the back of the room, Courtney Burr III stood silently, avoiding cameras. The Los Angeles Times wrote, "A 2-time Oscar nominee departs in silence, leaving behind the gaze that never faded from Rebel Without a Cause." Today, the small West Hollywood parking lot where he fell still stands. A faded plaque, a few candles, and wilted flowers mark the spot. Fans still come by, leaving old photos and handwritten notes that read, "For Plato, the boy who never grew old." From the cramped Bronx streets to the red carpets of Hollywood, from fame to exile, Sal Mineo lived a life that was fearless, complicated, and deeply human. Beneath every scandal and rumor was a man chasing truth, whatever it cost. That searching look from Rebel Without a Cause still lingers, a reflection of a soul always reaching for love and freedom in a world that wasn't ready for either. Some stars live for applause. Others, like Sal Mineo, live to prove that truth means more than fame. His story reminds us that even Hollywood's brightest lights cast deep shadows. To this day, people still leave flowers outside his old apartment on Holloway Drive, each one like a quiet apology from the city that turned its back too soon. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to catch the next chapter of America's Hidden Gold.